Niv-Mizzet Reborn versus Naban, Dean of Iteration. Yeah, that's a pretty good opening hand. We can get into any coloured mana we like with that, and the fact that we've got Command Tower is really good in a 5-colour deck. So let's just throw out the Marsh Flats. We don't know what we're going to go for with that yet. A Ponder coming out from our opponent. Niv-Mizzet Reborn is a 5-mana Wooburg commander, a 6/6 with flying. When it enters, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library, and for each colour pair, choose one of those colour pairs from amongst them and put it into your hand. The rest go on the bottom in any order. Naban, Dean of Iteration, is a 2-mana 2/1 human wizard. If a wizard entering the battlefield under your control causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, then it triggers an additional time. Just think of Taser, Necromonicon, and that's what this is for wizards entering the battlefield. Alright, that's good. That is some different mana for us, which makes this definitely red and white, I think. Probably go for Saheeli next turn. We'll just have to see if we want to go for Terminate onto our opponent's commander or not. We definitely want Saheeli out when there's no creatures on board. And getting down the commander hopefully means that there's no counter magic being held up. And then it's Terminate onto Naban. And I think we're getting down our Saheeli next turn. Then we can start getting servo tokens every time we cast a non-creature spell. I always have to reread this card because it's strange to me that it's not triggering on instants and sorceries. It's actually non-creature spells, which isn't very is-it of this Planeswalker, but it's fine with me. We're going to get a lot of servos from it, I think. And we're not going to use an ability because we don't have an artifact to actually aim that thing at. -2, target artifact becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until the end of the turn. We're really only playing this for the non-creature spells cast give us 1/1 servos. And there's a Mind Stone from our opponent, and thankfully not holding up counter magic by the looks of it. They decided to cycle a Lonely Sandbar on their main phase. They could have done that at instant speed, couldn't they? Yeah, they could have had us play around counter magic there. Getting into green is really good here, so I say we shock that down and go for Ajani here. And then we might even go for Assemble the Legion next turn and get that going before our commander comes down. We get a servo token because Planeswalkers are non-creature spells. And then we're going to keep an island from untapping and hope our opponent doesn't scoop. Feels bad not activating Saheeli's loyalty abilities, but these things are kind of like enchantments that just sit on the battlefield. And yeah, there we go, our opponent scoops to that. Had a feeling they might do that. They've got a full grip of 7, so I'm surprised they're not even going to draw a card and try and play it out. They could have drawn another card off of the Mind Stone. Might be doomed to these type of games with this commander because it either draws us a boatload of cards and people love scooping to it, or it starts getting hammered and people all of a sudden have all the time in the world to actually play a game. We'll try again and see if we actually get a real game going this time. Okay, in for another game with Niv-Mizzet Reborn, and this time we're up against Nicol Bolas the Ravager. Usually Grixis heavy control, so I imagine they're not going to be scooping too early. We have to mulligan there because we don't have any lands. We have 4 lands there, including a counter spell, although we can't actually cast the counter spell. We can't go for the Detention Sphere either, can we? Because we don't have both white and blue, so we'll have to put that on the bottom. Let's get our shock land down first. We can go for Night of Autumn at least, which is usually going to be a Reclamation Sage. Oh, and there we go. We could have kept the Detention Sphere on top because we were going to get into white. Not to worry, we'll get down the Badlands and throw it back over. Already been over Niv-Mizzet Reborn in the game previous to this one. Nicol Bolas the Ravager is a 4-mana Grixis 4/4 flyer. When it enters, each opponent discards a card, and then for 7 mana you turn it into the Planeswalker side of this commander. which allows you to draw 2 cards, 10 damage to a creature or planeswalker, reanimating a creature or planeswalker from a graveyard, and then the limit break is -12, exile all but the bottom card of a target player's library. Well, we're fast approaching Wooburg at least. Yeah, we'll have to rely on City of Brass for blue mana. Not going to play out Night of Autumn yet because Grixis tends to be quite reliant on artifacts for their ramp, so I'm just expecting them to get into signets and things like that. But now I think they're just holding up counter magic. We'll get down the City of Brass so that we can hopefully make our way to double blue sooner rather than later. And tapping out during their main phase is okay with me. And this is the new Ashiok that mills and has us exile our graveyard. We don't actually care about our graveyard in this deck, I don't think. Now, are they trying to make us tap out for their free counter magic? They may be, but we just have to try it. They're going to counter something of ours eventually anyway. So we'll see if they have a force of will here. No, they are just letting Niv-Mizzet Reborn enter. Now then, what do we want from the Azorius pile? Well, Supreme Verdict is the only one we can actually cast, so we'll go for that. We only get 2 cards out of the top 10 there. We get an Ajani Vengeance and a Supreme Verdict. So we'll just have to pass like that. A couple of turns away from the Garruk Apex Predator, so we might be able to get our opponent to counter an Ajani Vengeance before we attempt to get that down. Let's have a look at what they're exiling from us. They're getting some good stuff. Deathrite Shaman, Anguished, Merciless Eviction, Undermine, Reflector Mage, and they've got a Pernicious Deed from us as well. And then they have a Save of the Moment. They've skipped the untap step, but take an extra turn. And this time, off of the Ashiok, they get a Kolaghan's Command and Events of the Sojourner. Let's see where we are now. Tyrant Scorn we've drawn into. So let's get down our land. And then I think we swing in at Ashiok first of all. And then it's Ajani Vengeance, and we'll hold up mana for the Tyrant Scorn. See if we get another player to tap out to Ajani Vengeance. We'll tap down the Command Tower. And how much I should have looked at the activation of this. Yeah, this is 4 mana, a 4 mana man land, so we don't need to worry about that. Unless our opponent just so happens to get into a land and a Soul Ring or a Mana Crypt, something like that. But we have the Tyrant Scorn anyway, so that can blow up man lands. Okay, Yawgmoth's Will. They've tapped out for that, so are they just going for a land off of the Yawgmoth's Will? Yeah, they are. That's no problem. That's the best Yawgmoth's Will we could ever hope for. And they've still got a full grip of 7. And they're playing on through us tapping their lands, so that's really good for us. But we're not drawing into any lands, are we? Yeah, that's unfortunate. So let's just tap down the Command Tower again. And then we'll go in at our opponent for 6. And then I think we might have to main phase a turn to Mist. Problem is, Niv-Mizzet entering isn't ever going to give us any lands, because there are no multicoloured lands. Well, we can't exactly hold up counter magic, so let's just try and craft a better hand here. We'll make sure it goes into exile first. And then Niv-Mizzet will come back from exile into play under our control. And we'll just change the zones on that again. And now let's see if we get more than 2 cards this time. Oh, there's Saheeli again. And we've got Ral as well. Yeah, I think I prefer Saheeli, do I? Because we're not likely... Let's go for Ral this time. And then there's a Counter Squall, a counter spell that we can actually use, and there's Ashiok as well. I don't think we're going to get many creatures in this deck, so let's go for the Counter Squall there. Now then, we're struggling on blue mana, so I think we have to get rid of some counter spells here, unfortunately. We'll go, yeah, we'll ditch the board wipes as well, because like I said, there's not going to be too many creatures being played in this deck. And Night of Autumn apparently isn't going to be of any use to us either. Now this way we can hold up the Counter Squall. That will counter a non-creature spell. Our opponent manages to get into another land, so they're not going to be struggling on... Well, they might need double black actually. They've only got 2 black on the field, and one of which we are keeping tapped down. And yeah, our opponent decides to scoop there. They're obviously struggling to do anything somehow. I don't know if this was Nicol Bolas Super Friends, based solely around the fact that the new Nicol Bolas Planeswalker has loyalty abilities of all Planeswalkers. Yeah, they might have been going for that and just don't like the look of their hand and the fact that they won't be able to keep a Planeswalker in play because we have a big flying dragon. And we'd be able to counter one of their Planeswalkers anyway if that's what they were going for, so just unlucky there. I'll keep attempting to get another game, but this might just be a compilation of early scoops. I do hope not. It's the third time a charm. Niv-Mizzet Reborn versus Riku of 2 Reflections. And again, just a 1-lander, 38 lands in this deck, and we don't seem to have the best opening starts. I've noticed this in the Niv-Mizzet Reborn deck, is the only complete games that we tend to get are ones where we don't scoop. That is a terrible, terrible opening hand, but there's that counterflux again. Yeah, this is a terrible opening hand, but we're just going to have to attempt it and hope that we can get into Bring to Light or something like that. Well, we can cast Reborn Hope at least, when we eventually fill up our hand over the next 4 turns and end up discarding stuff. Riku of 2 Reflections, by the way, is a 5-mana Temur commander, a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you can pay Izzet to copy it. The same is true of creatures, but you have to pay Simic to copy those. Now, if we got into a blue mana there, we could have gotten down to Fairy, and that would have been pretty good, but we didn't, so we'll just have to pass over again. And we just get into Supreme Verdict, passing over again. Down comes a Bloodbraid Elf, cascading into the Gruul Signet. So that puts us on a 10-turn clock, but at least we get into a Shockland. Yeah, we can get down to Fairy Time Raveler here. It is going to take a hit for 3. But it will survive at least. And I'm thinking if they get down another creature, we can cast Supreme Verdict at instant speed. And we might just be able to get into this game if we draw into another land, and our opponent isn't holding up counter magic, which are big ifs. Well, there's the double blue for most counter magic. Oh, and that's really good, a Rite of Replication. We'll take down our Teferi, that's really unfortunate for us. We can get it back with Reborn Hope though, but I think we just take this opportunity to get down our commander. Or do we want to go for Bring to Light? No, I think we go for our commander here. Try to get some good cards into our hand, and then there's nothing to stop us wiping the board after that. Might even be worth going for Reborn Hope next turn and going for Teferi again. Now, there's a lot of Azorius cards. We have Dolvin's Veto and Return to Mist. And there's Venser as well. We'll have to tap out next turn to get that down, but it will get us more card draw. Yeah, I say we go for Venser there. And then we've got Night of Autumn, Assemble the Legion, Assassin's Trophy, Merciless Eviction, and Fire Covenant. That's a lot of stuff in our hand. Now, what do we want to get rid of? We need to get rid of 3 cards here. That'll be Bring to Light. Merciless Eviction we can make do without, I think, because we have a couple of board wipes already. And then we'll go for... Yeah, I think we go for the Supreme Verdict here because I'm quite willing to take a lot of damage on the Fire Covenant to get rid of our opponent's creatures and keep Niv-Mizzet in play. And then we can start going for Venser activations. Venser flickers our commander, by the way, which is why it's in here. and it's a plus ability to flicker it as well. So we might eventually be able to get up to the emblem whenever you cast a spell, exile a permanent. But it's really in here just to flicker our commander and really craft a good hand. And are they just passing straight through their turn here? Okay, they went for a fossil find. Return a card at random from your graveyard to your hand, and then reorder your graveyard as you choose. Might be worth putting in this deck actually. Never seen that card before. And they've gotten themselves into a Rite of Replication, and I'm not sure how many cards they put into their hand there. I'll just leave this up here. This is what was revealed. I don't think they got too much out of that. Now that we've gotten into the Baleful Strix, I think we go for Night of Autumn and the Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix will draw us a card, but it's also a good blocker. We can block their Niv-Mizzet Reborn with that. And we get a land for the turn, that's really good. Does that change anything? I don't think it does. Yeah, let's just get down our Night of Autumn. Now here we can either put 2+ counters on it, destroy an artifact or enchantment, or gain 4 life. We are going to blow up the Gruul Signet and put them down a mana. And then we'll leave everything back here and F6 through our opponent's turn. I'd really like them to get down their Riku before we wipe the board. And I'm thinking now I might go for Reborn Hope onto Supreme Verdict, because I wasn't expecting our opponent to get down a big 6/6 creature. There's a Shardless Agent that they revealed off the top, and they've cascaded into a Mana Crypt. And then Nykthos Shrine to Nyx goes for a lot of green mana. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 green pips on the board, but just decide to go for Riku. I don't think they could make Temur by tapping down the Nykthos. Yeah, going for, do we have enough white to go for Reborn Hope? I think we do. We have quite a lot of white, don't we? And then it's white, white, blue, white. Yeah, we've got enough, so let's go for... Yeah, I don't think I'm even going to bother swinging in. Let's just go for the Reborn Hope onto the Supreme Verdict. Return a multicoloured card from the graveyard to our hand. And this spell can't be countered, so that will wipe our opponent's board. And then we can start trying to set up with a Venser the Sojourner. Or we could even go for Assemble the Legion. The longer that's out, the better it becomes. This has been a pet card of mine for a long time, but I've never really been able to include it in anything. A Brainstorm from our opponent, and they get into another land there. Oh, and there's a Maelstrom Wanderer. And that will have haste, and of course it gets into Ethereum Horn Sorcerer. We'll have to watch out for this thing, because they can bounce it back to their hand. Looks like this version of Riku is heavily creature-based. Wow, and into a Chaos Wand as well. Jolt used this against us and our Niv-Mizzet Reborn deck in the EDH lounge. And we're a very good deck to target with it, because we have a lot of removal in this deck. Yeah, discarding that Supreme Verdict hurt us, because we had to blow the Reborn Hope getting it back. And I wish I'd kept the Supreme Verdict over the Fire Covenant. Definitely wasn't expecting some massive creatures coming down as quickly as they have. We can't even go for emergency powers. That would not necessarily help us, but it might. We can't wipe the board with Fire Covenant, but we can get rid of all but one of the creatures. We might have to just go for that. That will put us down to 6, and then 1 from tapping the City of Brass for the Assassin's Trophy. I think we just have to go for Fire Covenant here, unfortunately. Now the problem is we've only got 1 black, haven't we? So it might just have to be a black onto Assassin's Trophy from the City of Brass, and then we get after that Maelstrom Wanderer. And they will get a basic out of their library with that. And then we're still struggling on black mana, so there's nothing else we can do there, unfortunately. So we'll just have to pass it over and see if they want to play around counter magic or not. Gonna get hit for 4 here. That knocks us down to 7. And they get a Cultivate. They've still got 2 cards in hand. I don't know if they've made the land drop. They might be able to get down the basics straight away from the Cultivate. Yes, they do, so they're back down to 2 cards. An Elvish Visionary will cantrip. And then a Shifting Shadow onto the Elvish Visionary. The enchanted creature has haste. And at the beginning of your upkeep, destroy this creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature and put that card onto the battlefield with Shifting Shadow attached to it. I've never seen that card before. That is pretty good on an Elvish Visionary that you don't care about. Alright, there's another black mana at least. Now it's at the beginning of the upkeep, so we can blow these up with Fire Covenant, but then there's nothing else that we can do. We could go for our commander again, but then this thing flips into another creature. But does it flip into a creature that we can actually block, is the question. I think we have to try and go for Assemble the Legion here in order to attempt to get chump blockers out. It's a really sketchy means of getting blockers out, but yeah, if we can survive a turn, we might do it. And then we'll use the Tyrant Scorn to destroy that before it flips the Shifting Shadow. And they're going for Chaos Wand here. There's every chance they'll get into a counterspell. Nope, they just get into Hull Breach, so that will get rid of the Legion as soon as we've played it. And yeah, it looks like our opponent's got us here. Might try an Emergency Powers next turn, but I don't see what we can flip into off of that. If we play this during our main phase, we can put a permanent with CMC 7 or less from our hand onto the battlefield. But I don't see what we can put down that will help us. We'll try anyway. And there's a Bring to Light with 3 mana into it. And then they get to search for a Lightning Bolt with that, so that's well played by our opponent. And yeah, we were just a little too slow there. We were struggling on lands for a bit, and luckily we got into them as quickly as we could actually, but our opponent got into big creatures really quickly, and I kept hold of the Fire Covenant when I actually should have kept hold of the Supreme Will, and I think this game would have gone much differently had I have actually gone for the Supreme Will, but like I said before, I wasn't expecting a lot of big creatures to come down that quickly, and I certainly wasn't expecting a Maelstrom Wanderer. So it's well played by our opponent. Apparently the only way to get a good game with Niv-Mizzet Reborn is if we don't quit, and if we lose. And we lost against Riku of 2 Reflections. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.